Shabbat Shalom. Kahalo Yahweh Shem Yahushai B'Hashem Kodash. Double honors to the elder apostles of GMS, including the elders that came before them, that taught us his truth. And Shabbat Shalom and salutations to all the brothers out pushing the word and truth and in sincerity, the hopeful elect, tabernacle of David. All right, this lesson is going to go into how quickly World War III is approaching. All right, this thing is escalating by the week and by the day. And Vlad Tepes, Vlad the Impaler, right? Vlad Dracul is going draconian. All right, so this is Revelation 11 and 14. The second woe is past, World War II. And behold, the third woe cometh quickly. All right. Now we're going to watch Johnny Storm explain everything that's going on right now. He did a real good job of squeezing in everything that's going on. This is 23 hours ago. Don't Speak News. War update. Putin on TV. If Western deliveries of weapons to Ukraine continue, we will strike. All right? So you know where this is going. We know, the men of the Lord know, because we were given the understanding of the scriptures. All right? So here we go.
The other day, we had a wars and rumors of wars update about China and Russia. In particular, China wants a meeting, and they're going to have a meeting, apparently, with U.S. Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin on Tuesday, June 7th. At the same time, Russia was sending out its entire Pacific fleet, about 40 ships, including submarines and some aircraft. So all that was going on, and now we have Russia transitioning from a special operation in Ukraine to taking aim at all of NATO in a sweeping demilitarization move.
Okay, so that's letting you know, all right, this thing is escalating. At first, he was just dealing with Ukraine. Now, he's dealing with all of NATO, which is the beast, and the EU. NATO and the EU. All right? So we know the complete outcome. It's during World War III that the angels and Yahweh Shai are going to come into the fray. Okay? And there are just too many sightings of fleets and armadas, and you understand? What do you call it? A company of nations. A company, a battalion. These are all military terms dealing with how much, all right? Go on, Johnny.
This is what we figured was coming, and now they're starting to announce it. So here we go. The United States is fighting Ukraine with so many weapons that Russia has announced that it must take a more global approach to its special operation in Ukraine.
Global as in World War.
As predicted by myself and a lot of other people. So instead of just dealing with the globalist problem in that country, Russia quickly realizes that all of NATO is its enemy. The axis of evil is much greater than just Ukraine's puppet government, and a simple way of putting it.
This, what he's going to say right here, Slovakia, it's actually right here. So
it says here I might have some unpleasant news. This is from Olga Skabiva on the Russian state TV program 60 Minutes. Even though we are methodically destroying the weapons that are being delivered to Ukraine, the quantities in which the United States are sending them force us to come up with some global conclusions.
Global. World War. This is what, look at this. In a sense that a real war had started, World War III. Listen.
Perhaps it's time to acknowledge that maybe Russia's special operation in Ukraine has come to an end. And in a sense, that a real war has started. World War III, she added. We're forced to conduct the demilitarization, not only of Ukraine, but of the entire NATO alliance.
There's World
War.
So
these are big words, it says here, and they are. But ones that have been written on the wall for quite some time now. Many could see that this is moving towards World War III once NATO decided
So look, the handwriting is on the wall. You see this? That's prophetic. Many, many tekel upharsin. Okay.
To gang up on Russia for dealing with the Ukraine problem. Both the United States and Poland, along with other NATO countries such as Germany, have been funneling weapons and other gear into Ukraine as part of a united front against Russia. So this leaves Russia with very little option other than to fight back against the whole shebang.
Let me back that up a little.
Both the United States and Poland, along with other NATO countries such as Germany, have been funneling weapons and other gear into Ukraine as part of a united front against Russia.
I'm trying to get back to this. Many could see that this was moving toward World War III once NATO decided to gang up on Russia for dealing with the Ukraine problem. World War III, the third woe cometh quickly. Once they're fighting real good, okay? See, this is how we tell time. All right? Here's how we tell time. Because in the middle of World War III, when they're fighting real good, okay, Yahushua and the angels get into the fight. Then they stop fighting each other in World War III so that they could fight against Yahushua and the angels. All right, so we're almost the hell up out of here.
So this leaves Russia with very little option other than to fight back against the whole shebang. And guys, that's what they're going to do. What have we been talking about here for a long time? That eventually, that it was already World War III, number one, because NATO was heavily involved from the first day. They've been assisting Ukraine with AWACS and with real-time intelligence on where the troop movements are and where they're headed. That's why Ukraine has had some success in a tactical sense on the battlefield. But in a practical sense and in a strategic sense, they are losing and losing badly. Now it's anywhere from 60 to 100 troops a day. And more than that, wounded and taken out of action as well. So that's just the death. So it's very unpleasant for Ukraine right now, but Russia's done. They're done putting up with all of these weapons just, flowing in. And they tried to warn everybody last week by blowing up that rail tunnel in Ukraine, in western Ukraine. Well, that wasn't enough, apparently. So now they're taking the gloves off and they're coming out and saying, look, this is World War III now.
This is it, Akim. This is what we've been waiting for. Things are about to spiral out of control quick.
And now we're going to attack the sources of these weapons. Sources outside of Ukraine and Kiev. They already hit Kiev yesterday where some of these weapons were being stored. So now Putin has gone on television in Russia and said if Western deliveries of weapons to Ukraine continue, we will strike. And I don't know why everybody thinks he's bluffing. I mean, I shouldn't say everybody, but I still get a lot of scoffers and mockers in the comments and the emails and on the website. And I just had a couple from the same person. It must have been a robot because the trolling comment was the same for both postings. But anyway, nonetheless, everybody seems to think Putin is bluffing. He's not. He hasn't bluffed one time about the operation in Ukraine, not once. And you can bet your bottom dollar, which isn't worth much, that he's not bluffing here either. So here we go. Russian President Vladimir Putin has now publicly warned on television that if NATO countries continue sending weapons to Ukraine, Russia will draw the appropriate conclusion and use new weaponry, of which we have plenty, but we will strike targets that have not yet been struck. Gee, can you say like NATO capital cities? Can you say Berlin? Can you say NATO headquarters in Brussels? Can you say Poland, where they're staging all these weapons? I sure can, and that's probably what they're going to hit first. That's not to say that they won't use some hypersonics and hit the United States too. Washington, D.C. in particular. Just saying, it could happen. So here's the actual televised interview in original Russian language. And there's English subtitles for translation. You can watch it if you like. But at 2:52 Eastern today, just found out when President Putin did this live interview, it was carried live on all Ukraine television channels, all of them. Russia took over Ukraine's broadcast media. Ukraine can't even control their own televisions now. So they have lost all control in Ukraine, guys. Their central government is pretty much just sitting ducks right now. Anyway, two key phrases in his remarks, and I would agree with this: new weaponry, okay, and strike targets that have not yet been struck, meaning, like I just said, Poland, Germany, Brussels, Belgium, because of that's where NATO headquarters is, possibly Washington, D.C. as well. Okay.
New weaponry. What is this? Let's get that. Okay. Let's get a precept on that. Let's get Joel 3. Joel 3 and 10. Beat your plowshares into swords and your pruning hooks into spears. Let the weak say, I am strong. New weapons. Okay?
Where the majority of the weapons coming from, the United States. And the U.S. is sending over those longer range missiles, which Russia has said again and again and again and again. If those rockets hit our territory inside of Russia, then yes, we will strike back, and it will be outside of Ukraine. So what's left in their arsenal of new weapons to use? Nuclear tip versions of Caliber and Zircon, perhaps? Remember, Caliber is their subsonic cruise missile, and the Zircon is their new hypersonic missile. Or is Putin talking about the entire range of Russian nuclear weaponry? Battlefield tactical nukes, full-blown nuclear ICBMs, and the new Sarmat 2, or Satan 2, as they call it here in the West. The hint we have at the answer to the questions above comes from the second key phrase: strike targets that have not yet been struck. Notice he did not say inside Ukraine. I mean, he has been very specific. So, among the targets that have not been struck yet are the nations actually providing the weapon deliveries to Ukraine, primarily US, UK, France, Germany, and Poland. Yes, let's not leave out the UK and France. They could be struck too. Submarines are always on the prowl out around the UK. So of those, hitting the US is the most vital, because once the US is hit, NATO falls apart, and that's true. If the Europeans see that America can no longer help them and we're no longer safe, they will tuck the tail and run so fast they might even leave skid marks. No, they might. They certainly might. So there you go. I don't know how much more clear it can be than that, and I've got confirmation here. You know, on War News 24/7. Targets that have not been hit will be hit. And then we have China, Australia having a serious incident as well, as J-16 blocked the P-8 and threw chaff and flares at the engine. So here we go. A new serious incident between China and Australia took place in the South China Sea. A Chinese J-16 fighter is about to send an RAF P-8 intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance aircraft to the bottom. The Australian Minister of Defense gave a press conference on the issue, and of course it sided and cut the road in the P-8 of the Australian Air Force. Of course, they're going to spin it their own way. Why wouldn't they? This is the second serious incident between China and Australia, and has been preceded by the incident with the Canadian aircraft, which I put on the website the other day at don'tspeaknews.com. If you scroll down here, you'll see, oops, let's go back to the homepage, don'tspeaknews.com. I put that story up here last week, right here, as the Chinese fighter jet pilots gave Canadian Air Force pilots the middle finger in a danger close flyby. That was over by Korea. So China's spreading out. Questions are also being raised why the U.S. and allied countries are now sending spy planes very close to the Chinese coast, as concerns grow that China is preparing something in relation to Taiwan. And like I said, we also mentioned here last week in my previous report that Russia was sending out its entire fleet into the Pacific to join China in some exercises. So A lot of stuff going on, a lot of moving parts around the world, guys, but this sums it up really good right here. Russia transitioning from special operation in Ukraine to taking aim at all of NATO in a sweeping demilitarization move. They are done putting up with NATO, all the weapons that are flowing into Ukraine. And guess what? A lot of them are flowing right back out of Ukraine and going into Syria and Somalia and Lord knows where else. Seriously. Because all of them are going out to the black market. There's black market arms dealers in Syria bragging about going to Ukraine and buying Javelin missile systems for 15 grand. And then coming back to Syria with them and making a profit. I'm just saying. That's where these weapons are really going. They're not helping the Ukrainians really at all. And the ones that they are using, well, they're killing Russian troops, and Putin is done with it. I don't blame him. Can anybody blame him? Would not the United States, if we were at war, attack the supply lines of the enemy and the supply depots of the enemy in their home country? Of course we would. But you see, they're trying to run this proxy war in Russia, and Putin's not going to take it. And they're trying to accelerate it for other reasons that I'll get into in another segment. That takes us off topic here. So there's your wars and rumors of wars update. Putin has now been very clear, once again, I might add, that if Western deliveries of weapons to Ukraine continue, we will strike, and it will be outside of Kiev and outside Ukraine. It will be NATO countries and capitals, including the United States, most likely. So
this is it.
Stay and prepped up at all times, guys. This could happen at any moment because, as we know, the powers that be in the West are too stupid, and they've probably been told to keep the weapons coming in no matter what because it's time for war.
Because what? Because, let's get that. I was going to save the precepts for the end, but we're doing it during. Let's get this. Let's get Ecclesiastes. Ecclesiastes 3:1, to everything there is a season and a time to every purpose under the heaven. 8, time to love and a time to hate, a time of war and a time of peace. This is the point right here. What would you say, Johnny? It's time for war. This is the time we're in. It's just plain and simple.
As you know, the World Health Organization didn't get their treaty changed, or treaty changes, amendments that they wanted last week. So now it looks like they're going to just, charge us headlong into full-blown nuclear war around the world.
They tried to get everybody's sovereignty under their belt.
There you go, guys. I'll keep my eyes on things as much as I can, as always. But prayed up and prepped up at all times. I say prayed up first because...
All right. Enough of that, Johnny. You don't know nothing about the truth. So, and there it is. So, we'll cut it short right there. That's all it needs to be said. All right? We're definitely in the time of war. All right? So with that, we hope that the elect will edify you, brothers and few sisters. With that, we're going to say Shabbat Shalom.